The federal budget announced on Tuesday night includes $17.7 billion to support the aged care sector. Helping Hand is a aged care and retirement village provider in South Australia, operating 9 aged care and retirement village facilities, including at Jamestown, Clare and Port Pirie. I caught up with Chris Stewart, Chief Executive of Helping Hand, the morning after the federal budget was announced. Chris Stewart, thanks for joining us on Flow. Some huge numbers when it comes to the money given in the federal budget overnight for aged care. What's your overarching reaction to that funding?
Thanks, Ricky. It's enormous and really welcomed, and I spent a large portion of last night poring over the budget response, but also the federal government's response to all of the 148 recommendations in the Royal Commission. So I'm really pleased. They've responded to all of the recommendations. They've approved, I think, around about 85% of those recommendations, and a lot of that is reflected in what's a really, I think, a fantastic financial response to improving aged care in this country.
So the findings and some of the evidence that came before the Royal Commission was fairly harrowing. Is this the first injection of funding by the federal government in this area, or had it already made some commitments since the findings came down?
Throughout last year, especially with COVID, the government provided some sort of emergency relief funding to aged care providers in the form of cash to help us get through the COVID pandemic, which was used and gratefully received. They also helped with some staff retention to support all of the infection control and pandemic relief measures. So there was some money, and there was some more money announced sort of early in March, I think about $450 million across the entire sector, but this now $17 billion over 4 years is just enormous, really. It's almost doubling what we're currently putting into the system over that 4-year period.
Yeah. Now, one initiative that was mentioned in the budget was this roughly $10 a day that's going to be given to a facility so long as it's submitting itself to some further auditing. Can you walk us through what that commitment means in real terms for someone who's in a facility?
So this is really significant, but it should be put into context that currently, it's been widely reported that over 60% of residential care homes, and particularly so in regional areas, are running at a loss. So the danger is that providers become unviable and can no longer provide their services. So this $10 a day, basically it's $10 per resident per day, will be an enormous shot in the arm for aged care providers to be able to continue to provide the services that they do, and importantly, bring on some additional staffing to help to support the services they give. So it also is combined with further funding that kicks in, I think it's from October next year, around actually putting on more staffing to increase the minimum amount of time that carers put with residents. So when you combine the $10 per resident per day, which helps with just ongoing viability of these providers, and then an additional lump of fund or an additional amount of funding comes to help improve staffing, it's actually a really good solution for the residential care providers.
Yeah. Now, the other big numbers I picked up there was this 40,000 new places this year, calendar year, if I understand that correctly, and 40,000 in the next calendar year. Now, as a regional broadcaster, we're always focused on how that lands for our regional listeners. Do you understand that how are those 40,000 places going to be determined? Are they mostly going to be swallowed up in the cities, or facilities like yours, Port Pirie, Jamestown, Clare, and the home care packages? Is there going to be some delivery of a sizable amount of those, do you think, in regional areas?
Yeah, look, I think, Ricky, it's a good question. This is about the 80,000 is specifically for home care. So it's $6.5 billion over 4 years. So what they're really trying to do is clear that 100,000 wait list package that's currently people waiting for a home care package. So, and the themes that I sort of read in the budget response was that there is a big response to rural and regional areas. They do realise that the ball has been dropped in aged care in these areas. So I suspect that it will be very evenly proportioned over the regional areas, which I'm thrilled about given our presence in the region. So, it's it's overdue. Regions have, I think, been ignored for too long in the aged care sector, so I'm really pleased about this, and I think it will be positive. I think it will be evenly distributed.
So just to put some rubber on the road to finish off, if you like, you discover that mum or dad suddenly has a need and they need to go in a facility, and say they live in in the Clare Valley in South Australia, for example. What does this package mean for that situation where you need to get, let's say, mum into a home fairly quickly?
Yeah. So at the moment there are wait lists for our homes simply because of the increasing demand. And so and it takes a while, obviously, to build an aged care home and then fill it up, and it's a lot of work and a lot of money. So I think what the government's doing is, by introducing these home care packages, it will allow people to stay in their own home longer before they absolutely have to move into a residential aged care facility. What the government's also done, which I think has really picked up on in the Royal Commission, is around the need for respite. So that's when, if someone's living at home, say they've got a bit of dementia, they're starting to have some acute care needs, and the family or the loved one, really needs a bit of a break. We offer this already, a respite service where the older person can come into our home for a couple of weeks just to give that carer a break. Well, the government's picked up on that and has put in, I think it's $790 million over the 4 years to help people to access more respite services. So that will encourage providers like us to look at other options, maybe different types of homes or cottages to help provide respite services to those individuals. So it's a good story.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a good story for our regions as well if we do see those packages and places landing in regional areas, and we see some construction boom as well, more villages and homes established in our regions.
Yeah, look, I'm quite excited. It actually gives a lot of hope. Because when you're sort of waiting for outcomes of Royal Commissions, we've been looking at how we can expand our regional presence. This now gives us a little bit more certainty as to about how we can go about that. So I expect we'll also see a lot more capital grants become available to build new homes or renovate our existing homes. So yeah, it looks quite exciting.
Well, Chris Stewart from Helping Hand, thanks for joining us early on the morning after the budget. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for the call, Ricky. All the best.